East Tampa. Is it the hood or is it the suburbs? Or is it both all mashed into the same area? Today we're going to go from Gibsonton to Progress Village and East Tampa and some areas of Riverview to try to understand exactly what's happening in this area. Is it the hood, the suburbs, or is it both? On today's video, we're gonna explore some of the bougie suburbs on the east side of Tampa, and we're gonna learn about suburbs like Progress Village, a historic African-American community that somehow got trapped in the uncontrollable growth of East Tampa. The goal of today's drive was to find people that live on the streets of Tampa and interview them. These interviews have been uploaded individually to our channel, but in the meantime, we're going to learn about the neighborhoods of East Tampa where this homeless population lives. So after we drive around these sketchy neighborhoods from US 41, Gibsonton, all the way up to East Tampa, then we're going to go back and talk about Progress Village and the suburbs of Riverview. Today's video should give us a view of everything stretching along the eastern, southeastern side of Hillsborough County. On today's video, I'm going to give you guys a tour of the hoods on the east side of Tampa where homelessness is out of control. Now, the east side of Tampa, people think it's kind of suburban because, it's kind of the outskirts of the urban core. But on today's video, you're going to see that there's a lot of homelessness and crime on the east side of Tampa. Right now, we're in Progress Village. This is along US 41. We're going to head north and eventually go into the deep East Tampa hoods. Let's get to it. On this night, I was Uber driving and picking up people in all these places. This is the area of Gibsonton, and the passenger wanted me to stop at this gas station, but she didn't want to put it into the app. So when she got out, I actually drove off on her and left her planted because she did not want to do it the right way. She wanted to get a free stop on me, and you know what? I don't make enough money on Uber to deal with somebody trying to rip me off like that. So I literally drove off on her, and she actually went through and gave me a bad review, which counts against my Uber account. But anyways, it was better to get rid of her and her attitude and not have to deal with that. The people that use Uber in Gibsonton are really pathetic people. There's usually a surcharge of up to $8 every night in this neighborhood. And even then, the Uber drivers don't want to come up out here because once a passenger gives you a strike, even if they're lying, it goes against your account and you can only get so many. So this area is really trashy, ghetto, and low-class people to the point where even Uber driving isn't worth it because you got homeless people, you got bums and hood rats, and they're trying to get their ride for free. They're trying to get their money returned, so they'll make up all types of lies about the driver, or they'll inconvenience the driver and try to start a scenario so they can try to get a refund. So that's exactly what this fat hood rat looking lady was trying to do. And it really sucks for the good, hardworking people that live here in Gibsonton because when they need an Uber ride, it costs like $8 more than it would somewhere else because the drivers don't want to come out here because the drivers know that you got to deal with people like that on a regular basis. But anyways, for the sake of tonight's video, I did it, and I did get that strike from this passenger. Here we are driving through Gibsonton at night. I'm going to show you guys a few spots out here so you guys can see how crazy this area get. Gas stations out here in Gibsonton on the southern tip of Hillsborough County stay packed with homeless people in and out. A lot of times these people try to get you to buy them a cigarette or ask for $1 or something. You know how it is at the gas stations late at night. You can see there's always vagrant people hanging out outside of these gas stations. Seems like a pretty bad environment. And there's people the whole night just walking around vagrantly. A lot of them are homeless, so this area has kind of a little bit of a problem for sure. I'm sure you noticed the dude with the walker. Can you imagine being on a walker and being homeless on these dangerous streets out here? It definitely wouldn't be a fun ride. Now, Gibsonton kind of used to be a circus town here in Tampa. You might have seen documentaries about this place on the internet, but today a lot of that stuff is gone. But there's a bus there. It looks like somebody's living in it maybe, or they got lights in it at night. There's all types of weird stuff. It really is kind of a strange community Keep in mind that this is where the people that lived in the circus back in the 50s and 60s would come to live and retire, so it's always been a place of interesting people. Not exactly sure why this happened, but when I entered the outskirts of Tampa, coming in from the south, I got road raged by a semi truck that parked within like less than a foot of my truck. So let's check this out. So on the east side of Tampa, when you're coming in, you see a lot of these big giant gas stations, kind of a staple of Florida. Usually you're going to find vagrant people hanging out on the outside of these gas stations. Now this gas station here is actually surrounded by homeless camps, so you can see the police car right there. Probably the reason why they scattered, but I'm actually going to go around the back street, which kind of looks like some abandoned warehouses, but it's all full of homeless camps back there. Well, we ran into this little possum right here. I thought it was a cat, but it turned out to be a possum. And he's going around the homeless camps looking for free meals and stuff like that. Went across the railroad tracks up ahead. And this area here is all really a lot of homeless camps. A lot of them are abandoned, but you can just kind of get a feel for the area. As we head into Tampa, it's neighborhoods like this, just kind of warehouses and rundown districts and lots of homeless camps. Check out this beautiful semi-truck. You just don't see those anymore. I don't know for insurance reasons or what else, but you just don't see them on the road anymore. This gas station here usually has a lot of homelessness hanging around here. There's actually 3 or 4 people hanging out. And I actually pulled back around and I decided to interview some of these people, and they were cool with it. So the interviews are on our channel. And this is kind of like a big area for homelessness in East Tampa. That's the Summit Expressway. So now we're entering East Tampa. This area here is just one of the biggest concentrations of homelessness anywhere in Tampa. So you can see there's a few people hanging out right there on the side of the gas station. I'm going to go over there and try to talk to them, try to work out a deal, try to work something out. And we almost got trespassed because the person that was working at the gas station didn't want us there. As you can see, the only thing there is in this area is just lots of big gas stations. And okay, so now we're kind of like technically in Tampa. We're no longer in the outskirts. We're kind of like in the city now. And as we're riding through Tampa at night, we'll start to see a lot of people walking down the sidewalks, a lot of homelessness and vagrancy. This part of Tampa is just flooded with homeless people. Every time I come out here, it looks worse and worse. It doesn't seem to improve at all. Now, there are about 7 police cars at this gas station here. I don't know what happened. If I had to take a guess, I think some of the homeless people that live right behind the gas station could have been causing trouble. So cops, gas stations, homeless people. This is a cat and mouse game that happens in Tampa every single night, where the homeless people want to hang out in front of the gas station, but the cops try to kick them out. You can see it was quite a scene. And again, I wasn't really able to determine what was going on, but if I had to take a guess. But take a look at this, guys. Look at how many people are sleeping homeless here in this sidewalk in Tampa. Now, keep in mind, guys, I'm still Uber driving. I live in Bradenton. I'm all the way in Tampa. All I made the entire night Uber driving was $45. This time of year, life in Florida is brutal. There just weren't that many rides. I'm driving around hoping I get a ride. I finally get a ride, and I'm going to be honest. On the way to this ride, I even called my wife, and I was like, yo, looks like it's one bad area to the next. I'm a little concerned. I don't know if I should even be doing this. It's a bad area. It's not a good area to be picking people up in. So, and the area they're going to is actually even worse. It actually takes us back to the area we were at earlier. So I was a little nervous, but once I saw who the passengers were, it totally changed my mood. It was an elderly couple, and they were a blast. They laughed at all my jokes. As soon as they got in the car, they were like, oh, this is a really nice truck. We get to ride in a really nice truck. And I was like, yeah, it's the bank's truck. It's not my truck. Anyways, we just got off to some funny conversation, and they were great, man. So a lot of times, a lot of Uber drivers are actually afraid to go in these neighborhoods. But my experience has been that, as intimidating as some of these neighborhoods can be, there are great people. And these people were great, man. So it was great. I relaxed. They were really cool people. Kind of had great conversation. Now we're driving back to the area we were at earlier. So here we are, still driving through East Tampa. Now East Tampa looks and feels kind of suburban, but it's really the hood. And it's a nightmare from a city planning perspective. You have major highways like the one we're on, 301. You have the Selman Expressway. I think that's what we're passing now. You also have Interstate 75 and Interstate 4. All these expressways and state roads split through this area, and it kind of divides the city into some weird shaped sections. From a city planning perspective, Tampa has grown, and they really did a horrible job of planning all these major roads, driving in all random directions. Some of them, like Interstate 4 and the Selman Expressway, parallel each other. So it's just a complete nightmare of city planning, and it leaves warehouses, small, old, obsolete neighborhoods, and of course plenty of gas stations. It really creates somewhat of a nightmare from a city planning perspective is how I would describe East Tampa. Now the area we're dropping these people off in is kind of a little neighborhood in the back, and I'm actually familiar with this neighborhood because behind this neighborhood is a homeless camp, which I did a video in during the daytime a few months ago, and I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty scary. The homeless people were very hostile, and they actually tried to chase me out of there. It was one of those videos where I had to run for my freaking life. In fact, this right here is the entrance to the homeless camp. You can see how they put a hole in the wall, and there's a no trespassing sign. Back up that little alleyway back in there is a homeless camp. So what looks like a normal Tampa neighborhood over here, residential kind of inner city area, they actually have a homeless camp in the back, and a pretty scary homeless camp at that. I think the reason there's a homeless camp there, you see the trucks, right? So, the females, the lot lizards, they like to be near the trucks. So that's the type of homeless camp where, it's always money being made, and they're going to protect that either way. So it's kind of a very sketchy spot there. Homeless camp next to a truck stop is usually trouble, especially this one here, kind of way off in the back of this neighborhood. It's kind of a scary spot, not going to lie. I got ran up out of there, so it didn't really work too well for me. But now we're kind of like near the area of Columbus and East Tampa. No more passengers. It's around 11 o'clock. Uber app starts to blow up this late at night, but I've been out all day. I'm tired. It ain't worth it. So I'm thinking, you know what? I'm already off to a bad start. I'm going to go ahead and leave. call it a day. This is East Tampa at night. Lots of homelessness. Sadly, this is the situation in East Tampa. I know a lot of people don't consider these areas like the real hoods in Tampa, but these suburban hoods are actually starting to get pretty bad, and they actually have more homelessness and are kind of crazier in a lot of ways than some of the like inner city hoods. It's just a different type of hood. Now the zoning is a nightmare out here too. It's not just the city planning. If you look at this area, you got commercial, you got residential, and you have just all types of different buildings that none of them make any sense. I mean, literally, you got like commercial buildings right next to residential neighborhoods, right next to shopping plazas, right next to restaurants. It's kind of like a mess of every type of zoning you could think of, from light commercial to heavy industrial. Then you got your random gas stations, which get flooded by homeless people because there's still a lot of empty lots out here. And these empty lots provide a place for the homeless people to make a nice little camp in the woods. But as you can see, it's a very bad area from a zoning perspective. I think the only area I've seen this bad is maybe on the outskirts of Houston is possibly worse, and maybe San Antonio. But outside of that, this is some of the worst city zoning planning you're going to see anywhere. Here's another gas station over here. So you get the idea. It's very random. And if you keep pushing further out, you'll even start getting gated communities and apartment complexes. It's kind of some of the worst planning ever. And people don't really consider it a hood because it's not exactly a neighborhood. But some of these little corner stores and gas stations have a lot of problems, predominantly revolving around the notion of homelessness. Now, one thing I've always noticed about East Tampa is that these are some of the angriest, most road raging, screaming, angry people that I've seen anywhere in the state of Florida. There's just, people don't seem happy out here. Either that or whatever substances they're taking make them behave that way. But it doesn't really seem like the people here are friendly at all. It seems like the people are always screaming at each other, road raging each other, giving each other bad attitudes. Like somebody is always on their period out here, basically. There's always somebody tripping out, being disrespectful, acting a fool. People out here, for some reason, are just boca de trapo, how we say in Spanish. They're ragmouths. So now we're approaching the interstate. Up here you got areas like Riverview, Mango, Seffner. These are all considered suburbs, but not exactly great suburbs, especially Seffner and Mango. Those are just bad suburbs. But again, you see the idea of city planning. If you look to the sides, you have like a 2-lane highway that's very well lit. It's kind of like a state road maybe. And then you got all these commercial areas. And up ahead, I want to pull up to a gas station and a little Publix, I think it is. And there's actually homeless people sleeping outside the Publix. And now, Publix is usually in the suburbs, right? If you pay attention now, it turns more suburban. You can see the buildings are a little bit more elegant, more well lit, you know. You start to see a little bit nicer lighting and stuff like that. It's starting to look like the suburbs. But despite the fact it looks like a suburb, it has a lot of elements of the hood. So out here, we're practically in the suburbs now. You can see there's a Publix up ahead. So we're now by Interstate 75 and 301. This area is actually known as Riverview, which is supposed to be somewhat like a suburban area. But as I pull up, you can see there's homeless people right here outside of this Publix. So in the daytime, this might be like a nice shopping plaza, you know, old elderly retired people getting their groceries. But at night, you got homeless people sleeping on the balcony. So this is the reality of this area. It's an area that looks suburban at first glance, but has a lot of elements of the hood, and many times confuses people into thinking that because it looks suburban that it's a good area, but really there's enough characteristics of the hood in these neighborhoods to where it's just like living in a hood in many ways. It's not full on a hood experience, but it's pretty dang close. Today we are in Progress Village. This is a census designated place east of Tampa, Florida, a predominantly African American area. Now, the outskirts today are suburban. However, despite overall this being a suburban area, there are still older neighborhoods like this that have a population that doesn't match the demographic of the growing suburbs. So this is Progress Village. It's been highly requested on our YouTube channel. And it is a predominantly African American area east of Tampa. The houses here are older, and this area here is somewhat more affordable than the surrounding communities that at this point are growing suburbs. So what's interesting about this part of Tampa is that you have older neighborhoods like the one we're in right now, and then surrounding these older neighborhoods are new sprawling suburbs. And it's a very contrasting feel in the outskirts of Tampa, where you have neighborhoods like this that are older, sometimes a little bit run down, and then you also have beautiful growing suburbs less than a mile away. This area has been highly requested for our YouTube channel. It's been something you guys have been wanting me to show you guys for a while. I've driven through here on the main roads, but I've never actually got out into the neighborhood, so we'll see what it's about. Kind of a really bad smell here, I'm not sure why. You have some empty lots. There might be a homeless camp in the woods. The easement in pretty bad shape, but you can see on the other side are new suburban houses. But they're kind of bougie. If you look at them carefully, they're kind of, the paint's not really right, the maintenance isn't really kept. There's a little bit of pressure washing that hasn't been done, even though they're new houses. Avocado tree right there. So you start to see that it's suburban, but it's also bougie. It's not really fancy suburban. It's kind of like a bougie suburban. Like even here, you got, you know, just a bunch of cars parked on the easement and a boat on the road, and cars on the road. You got somebody living in a camper over there, so it's kind of bougie, to be honest. Even the newer suburban parts look kind of bougie. You'll notice that some of the houses have metal bars on the window. I'm sure that's not for decoration. I'm gonna guess that at some point this area had a high crime rate. So I see a lot of Spanish people, so it seems like this area is becoming Spanish. There's an interesting looking house. I've never seen anything like this before. It's kind of it reminds me of the houses in Alabama. There's cars parked on the road where you can barely even, I don't even know if I'm gonna make it through here. Somebody there has a baby blue driveway. They painted the driveway baby blue to match the house. Bless their heart. Of the designs of the houses are interesting. Like this house here is interesting. They've written scriptures all over the house. Kind of a mix of religion and politics, just a little bit. Interesting. Jah is not racist. Absolutely not. God does not care what skin color you are. We as humans look at the exterior shell of a human, but God will look at the heart. A lot of people are very mistaken. Puerto Ricans like to move into neighborhoods like this because it looks like Puerto Rico. Like the style of the houses and stuff look very Caribbean, at least the way they do it in Puerto Rico. You can see over there, they're brand new. In fact, I might be able to roll through there and roll back over here. Let's do that. You can see there's some brand new apartments over here. Now I'm recording side view, and let me tell you, recording side view irritates people. They don't like it. They think you're an undercover cop gonna bust their crap house. But they seem to not like it. We're on 88th and Evergreen, and I'm gonna show you guys what's on the other side of this fence over here. You can see on the other side of the fence is new apartments, and that's kind of the contrast of this area. But you can see people have been driving trucks on the grass, and whoever's mowing the grass is doing a horrible job. There's just kind of overgrown, and gives it a really bad aspect, really. You can see on the other side are some luxury apartments. I'm gonna guess off the top of my head you can get a 1-bedroom for $1,800 and a 2-bedroom for about $22. That's just off the top of my head. All right, we're gonna turn down this little street right here. The speed limit's upside down. This house is kind of cute, kind of on the corner. This one's baby blue. The next one's green, so we're seeing a little bit of color here. Good color scheme going on. This one's gray to match the Dodge. This person here hasn't mowed their lawn in ages. Kind of an interesting thing I've seen about African American neighborhoods all across America is African American neighborhoods, there's always somebody who doesn't mow their grass. I gotta point it out, I've noticed it all over America. There's worse things to notice about a neighborhood. Don't gotta be mad at me. There's always somebody like, that's racist, Jose. I'm like, how is that racist? It's just an observation. Now I'm not allowed to make observations without being racist. Oh, snap. No. Choking. Yeah. Oh, my back. Yo, couldn't walk up out of my shoes. Cadillac on 22s. Person's front lawn looked like Mountain Dew. Oh, we're back on this street again. Okay. Alright. Same street, the other side of the road. I like that house right there. That's nice. It seems like a pretty quiet neighborhood. There's people hanging out and doing stuff, but it seems pretty chill. A lot of Chargers. I love how like there's people that get triggered and they'll like label you a racist even though you've done absolutely nothing racist. It's just like they perceive that you noticed something about them, so now you're racist. It's like, come on, dude. Like people like that make everybody else who's not racist. Look, they got metal bars on the windows here. It's like, it kind of reminds me of Miami. Where they got, I'm gonna speed up a little bit here. I don't want all these people. I've noticed that on a lot of the videos I've made actually, where like I'll be doing a video. There's a house with a blue, you know, baby blue down there. I tell you what, they go to Atlantic Ocean down there. I tell you what, yeah, these cars are they just kind of blocked the entrance here. There's two cars. More political signs. Mr. Washington. It's a very common last name in Florida. Mr. Washington. Ooh, look, here's a Hummer. Looks like they're working on an old box Chevy right there. That's what's up. The box Chevy is still covered. It's a project. It's in the works. I'm booming. Chevy cat. I was hoping to see some pretty cool old school cars. So far, nothing. Neighborhoods like this always have the coolest cars. It's a small area. It's not that big. It's not. It's like it's less than a square mile, I think. It's not giant at all. Oh dang! OJ the Juice Man got a box Chevy. OJ the Juice Man met with a girl that was real heavy. Nobody walking around. It's interesting. Like if you go in a white neighborhood, like there's like 50 people walking around this time of day. Like a white people thing to do, man. Walk around. Not around here. White people just be walking around, walking poodles and stuff. You see them white people just walking a poodle down the road down there. I tell you what, man, just walk that poodle. Some of these houses look completely abandoned, like this one right here. It's getting dark on us, y'all. It's a beautiful night here in the Tampa area, and we're just gonna explore a little bit and see what this area is like. Drive around the neighborhoods and just see the vibes out here. Now, this is an interesting area because Progress Village is an older African-American neighborhood, but it's kind of like a suburb on the outskirts as well. And this area is really diverse. You just have a mix of everybody here. It's also like a lot of litter for being in Florida. All right, y'all, so we are in Progress Village, and we're just gonna get a burger here at this Pepper Jack place. Noticing a lot of New York and New Jersey license plates, and that's kind of a passing thing in Florida. I think the New Yorkers and New Jerseys have kind of stopped moving to Florida. Got a bunch of these smoke shops everywhere, you look kind of. And of course, you got every smoke shop you can think of next to a Papa John's that might be closed. Oh, there's people in there. They're definitely open. Their sign's dark, but they're open. Finally, a beautiful night in Tampa. It's starting to cool down. I think that's an Aston Martin. Like everywhere you look, there's litter. Nail bar. It's really a weird type of landscape and composition of people. Most of Tampa is like this. It's very mixed. There's a shoe there for some reason. Okay, there's a lot of angry people. Like the cars just drove by and was screaming at these people. Not sure why, but again, just kind of a very interesting area. There definitely has some aggressive vibes. It doesn't seem as chill as other places where people are just kind of laid back and, you know, doing their thing and chill. It seems a little bit more aggressive here than other parts of Florida. I mean, like, the amount of litter out here is disheartening. Oh yeah, we're by a junk car. So this burger not only looks good, but it's absolutely gigantic. That's a lot of food. Seeing fat it ain't, but show down. Alright, that's today's video about the eastern side of Tampa where the suburbs and the hoods seem to clash. An area that is as much suburban as it is inner city. The eastern side of Tampa. We learned about Gibsonton, Progress Village, East Tampa. And at some points in the video, we were also in Riverview. If you go further into Riverview, it's a lot nicer of a suburb. But that's generally what this area is like. Just a mix of different landscapes. Definitely unlike anything I've ever seen. So we interviewed two people here in Tampa, and that was really the goal of today's video. You can find those interviews individually on our channel. Now this young lady, she's also from Southwest Florida like me. A lot of people that are from Southwest Florida have relocated a little bit further north. In my case, I ended up in Bradenton. In her case, she's in the Tampa area. But a lot of the kids that I grew up with in Naples and Fort Myers eventually moved to Tampa. After all, it is the larger city near us. Miami's a little closer, but you literally have to be a millionaire to move to Miami. It's even more expensive than Naples and Fort Myers. So their trajectory into Tampa kind of mirrors what a lot of my childhood friends did, which is to get out of Southwest Florida and move into the Tampa area. If you want to find her interview and the young man at the start of the video as well, both of those interviews are on my channel. On my channel, we have a diversity of videos. We start off being called Florida Hood Blogs, where we would travel around the state of Florida showing you the hoods. But now it's more personal. We're not just looking at the hoods, but we're interviewing people that live in these places. It's still the same concept of urbanism, inner city neighborhoods, and the environments of the cities, comparing real estate and, of course, lifestyle in these places that sometimes people are afraid to go in. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I know it's a little bit different than what I usually do. We're trying to implement some new technology and make it all work together. Somewhat confusing, but I hope you guys like today's format, which is the first time that I try this format of combining different cameras and different things together. It's a little bit more complicated, but I think it should give you guys a more refined project. So if you've been watching my channel for a while, let me know what you think about the way I did today's video. It's a little bit different than usual. But today's video does incorporate all the aspects of what we do on our channel, from neighborhood tours to exploring the hoods to driving around to interviewing people. It's just a mix of everything. As you guys know, when I go out here and try to meet people on the streets, it's a little scary. You know, I'm a guy in a truck pulling up to people that I've never met before and trying to get them to be on my YouTube channel. Luckily, my YouTube channel's got to the point where most homeless people already know about my channel and they're eager to get on board. But when I first started doing this work, it was definitely scary. A lot of people interview homeless people throughout the entirety of the state of Florida. The difference is that on my channel, I do something a little bit different. I try to give the homeless people a slice of dignity. I was just watching a YouTuber, I think it was either Arizona or New Mexico, somewhere out west. Homelessness is huge out west, just like it is here on the East Coast. And these individuals interview people, and there's several channels, I can't remember which one it was. But I almost felt like, you know, the cover photos and the way they dealt with the homeless people was kind of degrading. You know, like a lot of the women doing weird poses and stuff like that. I really try when I do these videos with the homeless people to give them a slice of dignity. And I feel like a lot of the other creators that interview the homeless people don't seem to do that. Now, I was completely amateur at this. I had no idea what I was doing. And I'm getting a little bit better and understand what I'm doing better. And I also feel like some of the other people that interview the homeless on the streets, you know, I do the interview and then they get paid and then they do whatever they want with their money. I can't really control what they do with their money. A lot of the homeless people have told me to not give the other homeless people too much money, because if you give them a large sum of money, they can actually hurt themselves, because a lot of times when you give them the money, it's no secret what direction they're heading with the money. Addiction plays a huge role in the homelessness, so it's not a surprise that many times when you pay homeless people for these interviews, they go straight and do something specific with it. I don't know if maybe as my channel gets bigger, we can find a better alternative. But I noticed that there's one YouTube channel that it seems like the people got their substance before the interview. Like the person got paid, then they came back and then the interview afterwards, and they're doing their interview kind of under the influence. And I think that's very, very disturbing. For when you're grabbing somebody that's in a very vulnerable position, and if I pay them too much money, then it also forces them to have to do an interview. So I actually like to not offer them too much money, because then I don't feel like I'm forcing them to do the interview. I feel like it's not enough money where they have to say yes. It's actually enough money for them to get comfortable for the evening, but it's not enough money to where they're forced to do the interview even though they don't want to. And when I first got into this whole homeless interview thing, I would put people on the spot and make them give me the interviews with the amount of money that I would offer them. And then I thought about the morality of that, and I thought maybe we should change that. And we did. And now I don't pay people as much money for interviews. And I think it's better because somebody living on the streets, you offer them a large sum of money and you could literally help them overdose. It's that serious out there. You have to be very careful. But I also noticed that this other YouTube channel, it's a big channel as well, and the people seem like they've already had their fix before they go on the interview. And that's even worse because it seems like now the person is in a state of mind where they may talk about things that may be interesting or personal, but in that altered state of mind, should they be giving an interview? I just feel like many of the other people that are doing these interviews, watching how they do it, it seems very demoralizing, very predatory, and like they're just seriously taking advantage of these people, and they're going on there and making a fool out of themselves. And I try on my channel to give everybody dignity. Now, could I go on there and give people more money and have them act a fool and get these crazy cover photos and get my videos to get more views? Absolutely. But I've had videos where I make great income off the video. And instead of demoralizing the person that I'm interviewing, we're actually encouraging them and helping them. So I feel like this is a win for me, and it's a win for the homeless people. So I can't really wrap my head around the notion of why would I do this in an morally or unethical fashion when it can be done in a win-win situation. The homeless people get their money, they get a chance to tell their story. I get to make some money off it. It helps my YouTube channel grow. And if they have, some of them will even have a cash app they'll throw it on there, which we have to be careful with. Because if somebody's on the streets and they're addicted, and we put their cash app out there, we could actually be enabling somebody. And I know all this, but some of you guys don't know this. But it's a learning curve for all of us. And we want to help people, but sometimes we have to remember the people that we're trying to help are on the streets and homeless, and are individuals that can't manage their own personal economy. If they did, they wouldn't be on the streets. So they're individuals that definitely struggle with managing their personal economy. So flooding them with money actually doesn't do them very well. Notice this person right here crossing the road. He's clearly missing a leg. Sometimes you see a situation like that, and I don't care, dude, if you're missing a leg and you're on the streets at night homeless, I mean, people have lost compassion for humanity. And we look at all these homeless people as they're all a bunch of drug addicts. And unfortunately, maybe 87% according to the state of Florida, but according to my calculations, over 95% are addicts. But when you find somebody that's on the streets, they're missing a leg. By the way, missing a leg hurts. That doesn't just, it's gone and that's it. That hurts more than you could imagine. That's a very painful situation. And if they're on the streets and they don't have access to medical care, they're going to find something to take that pain away. So there's a real fine line between, people just cast these judgments upon other people. And then you got, if you talk to them, you get their story, and then you start to draw conclusions whether, maybe he should have lost his leg doing what he was doing. But we're not here to judge other people. And, so it opens up a very huge window of morality and ethics. And sometimes we have videos where we have great positive response, but it's a learning curve. It's been a learning curve for me, and it has to be a learning curve for the audience that's subscribing to our channel and starting to absorb this information of understanding why these people live like this, why they're in these situations, how can we help them without enabling their habit is a very difficult question. Now, I have some great ideas for that, but the implication takes a lot of time and planning. But in the case of somebody who's missing a leg and they're homeless on the streets, in that situation, you gotta have some type of compassion for them. And even people that are addicted, if you give them something to eat, maybe one day they're sitting on that sidewalk and, doing what they do. And here you come in a nice vehicle, get out with some nice clothes, give them a nice warm meal. And maybe it's that instant that person says, you know what, dude, I don't want to be the guy on this sidewalk anymore. I want to be the guy in that truck. I don't know how you can inspire and motivate people. I don't know. But I do know this, that me giving a homeless person a meal takes nothing away from me. Now, me enabling somebody to hurt themselves doesn't help me because I lose my money, and it doesn't help them because you're enabling a destructive habit. But I do try to find a morality so that when I go to sleep at night, I don't feel like I'm exploiting the homeless people. I feel like I've found a real ethical balance with what I do. And in fact, there's some people that are definitely going about it ethically wrong when you see their YouTube video, especially if you know what you're looking at. You think about somebody in a wheelchair, somebody missing a leg, somebody who's elderly and disabled. Look at the environment these people have to live in, dude. Do you think these homeless people that are out here in a wheelchair, do you think they get to sleep at night in this environment of junkies in and out? I mean, we cast our disabled people missing legs and people with mental disorders out on the streets where they have to conlive, that's a new word, convivir in Spanish, convivir. I like the Spanish word more than the English word, live alongside or to be, in a living arrangement with these types of people that are dangerous, addicted. I think as a society, we have done really wrong in just casting out people that have mental illness into the situation. Now, when somebody has a mental illness and they combine it with an addiction, now you have a complete recipe for disaster. When somebody has a mental illness and on top of that, they add an addiction, boy, that is just some horrible, horrible combinations of things going on there. But, judging other people isn't your job. We're not here to judge other people. We're just here to help in whatever way we can. And I think as a society, we don't really have the proper, you got to study these people. You have to understand. And now I'm getting to the point where when I see somebody, I know who I can help more than not. And it takes experience to know who you can and can't help, because a lot of people seriously are just out for themselves. And when I do these interviews, I still have to deal with some of these individuals that clearly are young, clearly are healthy, clearly should be doing something better with themselves, but they're shamelessly in this situation because they just lack the desire. And that's not respectable. I'm a hardworking person. I can't have respect for that. But I'm also a compassionate person. You can be both. You don't have to be one or the other.